people have gone out of business and just disappeared. And so your patients are on social media and they're looking at other providers that are active and maybe wondering, like, what happened to my dental practice? Are they still around? So it's really important to keep in touch with your patients.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Raving Patients podcast, sponsored by the Doc Sites and Cloud Dentistry. And I couldn't do it without them, so thank you very much. I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao, and I'm super excited today. Today, I have one of my good friends in dentistry, Rita Zamora, and we're going to be talking about making the most of social media today. Some of the topics we're going to be talking about today is how dentists can benefit from social media. How can dentists attract and grow more of the dentistry they love to do? What is the biggest challenge dentists face with social media? And what tools can dentists use to save time and get better results? Rita has a great product called Connect 90 that we're going to be talking about as well. So please welcome to the Raving Patients podcast, the fabulous Rita Zamora.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's always great to visit with you. I know how busy you are and all the successful projects that you always have that you're juggling. So I appreciate any time that you make some time for me.
And you're special because you are like one of the only, I think, the third person to actually have a second episode with me. So I'm in season 5 now. So we've had 4 full seasons, and now we're into the next year. And I've only had 3 other guests including yourself, who are being on this podcast for the second time. So you're in very small company here. And that's because I respect what you do, and I really enjoy learning about social media from you. So if you are listening to this, guys, turn up the volume and pay attention, because Rita's going to give us some great information. So Rita, to start with, why don't you, for those that don't know who you are, and I honestly can't believe anybody would not know who you are, but for those that don't know who you are, why don't you give a little bit about your background, and then talk about how you help dental practices?
Yeah, well, I consider myself a dental person. Sometimes people think, oh, you're in social media, you must be a marketer or a salesperson, but I still consider myself a dental person. Started working many years ago with a solo periodontist who had just moved to Colorado, where I'm based, from New York. He didn't know anybody. It was a very small practice. We just had just a few. There were like 3 team members at the time. It was like the hygienist, periodontist, assistant, and myself. A lot of people wearing a lot of different hats. And over the course of about 15 years, we took this startup practice and added 5 periodontists total and multiple locations. It became the largest perio and implant practice here in Colorado at the time. So I got to learn a lot about what it takes to grow a business. I got to learn a lot about growing relationships, leadership. The dentist that I worked for, the periodontist, Dr. Mark Reisner, was an amazing mentor to me. He adjusted my hours at work so I could go back to school. I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Colorado while I was working full-time at his practice. And he really taught me the power of vision and relationships. And so I feel really lucky to have that experience. And now working with practices across the country, we have clients actually in Canada and Australia as well. I feel like I'm a part of all of these practices as a result. So
perfect. And that's a really good intro. Thank you for being very concise. Some people talk about themselves for like 10 minutes and they waste a third of the podcast. So thank you for being concise with that. So we're going to be talking about social media and how it can affect your practice today. And I think social media obviously has so many different versions of it. I used to, I was one of the very first dentists to have a Facebook page. I used to talk about social media. I talk very little about social media because it's changed so much over the years, and I really haven't kept up with it as much. So I think the main thing I want to start talking about is how can dentists benefit from social media today? And I want to clarify something with you. Obviously there's many different ways to market a practice. To me, social media is keeping active on your social accounts, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those other sites. It's not paying a company to do Facebook funnels. To me, that's not social media, that's paid advertising. So I want to clarify that with you, that I'm looking for the way that someone can benefit from social media that's unpaid. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I'll talk about the organic use of social media and the organic benefits. And Yes. So some things have changed a lot. Some things change on a daily basis with social media. And now that we're 10 years into this, because when you were talking about Facebook pages back in the day, Lynn, as was I, Facebook business pages were just introduced about 10 years ago. So we've seen a lot of things in social media that have also been evergreen and remained the same. And that's what I talk about in my book and a lot about in my lectures. And that's what I carried into our Connect 90 program. And it's that evergreen strategy of thinking about the end, what you envision, starting with the end in mind. So thinking about what you want your online reputation, your online persona to be like, thinking about how you want to be perceived by your patients. Do you want to be the funny dentist, the stylish dentist? Do you want to be the dentist who's really into technology or someone who's really into family and community? So that's something that's really important that we talk to all of our clients about. And that's an evergreen strategy or an evergreen concept in social media. And then the other part of it is a little bit more tactical, thinking about how you're using social media on a regular basis. And that's where we get into, what do you want to do more of in your practice? Most dentists today, when I talk to them, I'd say probably 90%, Len, will say, I want to do more clear aligner therapy and I want to do more dental implants or smile makeovers, that sort of thing. Those are usually the big ones. So, what we've learned over the years is that you have to have a really good process in place, like everything else in your office. If you want it to be consistent, you have to have a good process to be able to continually promote those things.
Those things that you mentioned are the most common because they bring the most value to a practice. When you bring someone in there for who's just coming in for an exam, cleaning and X-rays as a new patient, it doesn't have the same attractiveness. Not that we don't want new patients. New patients are the lifeblood to the practice. But if you're specifically looking for those high value treatments, I think it's a whole different ballgame. So I'm curious. Now that you mentioned that, the way I've always perceived to yes, you have to brand yourself. Like you said, I used to wear before COVID, I used to wear a colored shirt, all these different Robert Graham stuff. And that's how people noticed me. And I would put things on social media and say, this is the shirt I'm wearing today. Do you like this one? I mean, that's kind of the brand we created online. And that obviously that in and of itself is not going to attract the high value stuff. So can you share some tips on how dentists can attract and grow more of the dentistry they want to do, which is some of this high value stuff?
Yeah, and I like that you brought that example up because we can sort of talk a little bit about that. That was sharing a little bit more about your human side and your personality. And that's really valuable because people already know you from Bird Eye and the speaking that you do, the books that you've written, but what really connects people to you right away, and we're said now to have less attention span than goldfish. So when you can connect to someone on a level like that, where they might say, I'm wearing those shirts too, or he's cool, I like his style, or whatever, there's a great value in that. So we talk to our dentists about that. But the most powerful aspect of social media, and this is where I pull from some of my days working in the perio practice, because I spent a lot of years doing case presentation for big perio and implant cases. So this was, even 15 years ago, we were talking about 10, 20, $30,000 cases where we were doing a lot of extractions and, sinus augmentation and, bone grafts. And it was scary for patients and it was a big investment for them. And I realized at that time how important trust really was. So that's one of the biggest benefits that you get from social media is that you can, start connecting with patients on that level so that they come into your practice already feeling like there's some level of trust there. That way, when you're presenting treatment to them, they already are, a little bit more, you've primed the pump and they're a little bit more comfy with you. But you can also then apply a more tactical type of um, strategy on a monthly basis. And that means you're talking about those procedures that you want to be doing more of. It sounds kind of like, well, duh, of course you would, but you would be surprised, Len, the majority of dentists that look at their social media, they're like, oh, I haven't really been talking about what I want to do more of in my practice at all. And then the patients don't even know that you have that to offer.
I agree with everything you said there. I laugh because, the social media aspect, I don't think that you can farm it out to a company and they post generic posts. You get no value in something like that. People always say to me, what do I think the best method for social media is? I said, honestly, you need somebody in the office to take it upon themselves to be posting photos of the office, photos of patients with approval. You've got to get more genuine when you come to social media because that's the side that we're talking about here. And if practices aren't willing to do that, I say don't get involved with social media because you're not going to get a following. Look, the goal of social media, yes, is to attract more new patients. But really the goal is to get more clicks, more engagement, more people liking the practice. That's really what the goal is. You measure the results in how much interaction your patients have or potential patients have. It's not always to get a new patient out of it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where it's important also to look at, when I say you have to be talking about those topics, we have to understand when you're posting about dental implants, you're not going to get, a bunch of likes and people sharing that information. I mean, people might be embarrassed that they need to have this treatment done. They're not going to go and share on a public page about how this procedure was done. Although I have to say, there are some situations, like we have an oral surgery client, and we have all kinds of patients that are commenting on there about how their TMJ surgery, which is different than replacing missing teeth, which can, be a more sensitive topic for some patients. But the patients go on and talk about how awesome their root canal was or their TMJ surgeries, that sort of thing. But we can't expect to get a lot of likes for certain topics when it comes to like financial topics or anything like dental implants or other procedures like that. But they're important to have on there. And one of those reasons is I tell dentists this story about when I was doing case presentation in the perio practice. We would have a lot of patients that were referred in by their general dentist at the time to have the surgery for the implant placement. And then we'd get ready to refer the patient back after surgery for the crown to be restored or to be placed. And the patient would say, well, my dentist doesn't do implants. And we'd say, well, yes, they do. That's why they sent you here. And they're like, no, they don't. They don't do implants. And we literally had to like sell them to go back to their dentist because the patient didn't even know that their own dentist did this type of treatment. So you want to make sure that you're posting about those procedures consistently, even though it's not getting a ton of likes. You can always boost the post, but it's those social topics, like you said, Len, that need to be really personalized to every individual practice. It's going to make those powerful connections.
Social media means a lot of different sites, a lot of different, an opportunity to really spread the word to various places. Where do you feel, are the couple most important ones that practice should pay most attention to? You have the choice of, Facebook, you have Instagram, you have TikTok, you have Snapchat, you have all. So where do you say practices, if they were going to focus on the top three choices, where do you think they are at this point as we move, towards the end of 2022 into 2023 and beyond?
Well, if we look at the data, the statistics, we can see that the number one social media platform today, even though it has a lot of black eyes from the publicity that's out there, is Facebook. And it still continues to be the most utilized, the largest segment of our population that's using Facebook. And the next one is Instagram. And Instagram continues to grow in popularity because, it's a pretty positive platform. We don't have a lot of politics there or really any. And, people love it. So that's a big one. And then the other place that I recommend to post content to, which is not social media, but a lot of dentists don't know you can post content to your Google My Business profile. And you should be posting content there on a consistent basis. Every 7 days, that content gets archived. So you should absolutely be taking advantage of that tool that Facebook makes available to you. It just gives you an expanded piece of real estate on your Google profile when you do that. And then, of course, if you're a specialist, LinkedIn can be beneficial. Any practice can have a LinkedIn company page, but there are other things that specialists could be doing with that profile. And yes, we have TikTok, who continues to take, the audience away from Snapchat. So we'll see what the fate of Snapchat's going to be. I know there are quite a few dentists now that are using TikTok Really, I think the biggest understanding with TikTok is that it is an entertainment platform. So TikTok is not competing with Facebook or Instagram, really. They're competing with television, Netflix, YouTube, because people are going to TikTok and listening to videos with the sound on, and they're not multitasking like they do with Facebook. You might be watching TV and scrolling through Facebook, or watching TV or listening to the radio and scrolling through Instagram, whereas TikTok's more immersive, and you really have to be prepared to entertain and be a little bit more careful about how you're crafting your brand on that platform.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy that TikTok in particular is immersive. It requires really your attention span because you are watching and listening to something. And it's hard to do multitasking. I love the way you describe that. Do you feel that TikTok, because I get a question a lot about TikTok and I'm like, I don't even have a TikTok page. I go on TikTok when I get sent a message and they say, "Hey, check this video out," and it's some cat falling down and they're playing music to it. I mean, to me, it passes the time. But I'm not of the TikTok generation, and I don't know really what age group is. But do you find that valuable for a general dentist? Do you think it's more for the pediatric dentist? Who should focus their attention on TikTok if they're going to be, if they want to entertain? Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, first of all, for sure, orthodontists, right? Because they're targeting that TikTok generation, really, and potentially, I mean, that I would say is 100% for sure. And everyone else, I would say it depends. First of all, we have to realize every dental practice has limited resources. So if you love TikTok, it's your favorite thing, you're totally passionate about this, then you're probably going to want to use that over Facebook and Instagram just because you love it. And if you only have a limited amount of time, that's what you want to use, go for it. If you want to have some fun with it, it's great. There are more and more kind of, I would say, legit, physicians, even dermatologists, plastic surgeons, that are also using the platform. So the one thing I've learned for sure over all of these years is never say never, right? When selfies first started coming about, and, short form video, I mean, all of these things that we say, I can't see myself ever doing it, you never know. So we'll have to see how that platform continues to mature. But for most dentists, I'd say the most important platforms for you are Facebook, Instagram, and then posting content to your Google My Business. We'll see how things change and evolve.
Are those still considered? And I think the name has changed to Google Business Profile, not no longer Google My Business, but the Google Business Profile.
Okay.
Are those considered posts still? Is that what they call it? Google Business Profile posts?
Yeah, it's just posting content to your profile.
Because you mentioned it changes every 7 days, and if I remember correctly, they actually have a name for that. I think it's, like I said, Google Business Profile posts. I think it's what it's called. But do your research,
Okay.
check it out. I definitely agree that you should be posting content there, but you have to be, like I said, it does refresh every 7 days. So I think it's important to make sure you have content that's consistently placed on there.
Yeah, and it's archived content, so you can still, show it off.
And what Google will send you, and every day I get a note, and I don't own my practice anymore, but I'm still on the Google My Business profile for it, Google profile. I still get reports from Google, and it tells you how many people have viewed that post that particular week when it actually goes away, and then you need to put more content up there. So they actually provide you with a lot of interesting data about Google posting. So I do recommend that. Rita, so what do you think is the biggest challenge that a practice faces today when it comes to social media?
I think, well, the biggest challenge, and we keep hearing about this, is staffing, making sure that the team members are actually available to do social media. As you know, a lot of times, marketing can kind of get pushed to the side when practices get really busy or if they're shorthanded. So the biggest challenge right now is that dental teams are really busy, and they may not have time to do marketing, which is really one of the most important functions of any business. As you know, and you can't just turn the faucet off and on when you need new patients. You really need that lead time, and patients have been ghosted on a lot of businesses over the last couple of years. People have gone out of business and just disappeared, and so your patients are on social media and they're looking at other providers that are active and maybe wondering, like, what happened to my dental practice? Are they still around? So it's really important to keep in touch with your patients, even letting them know, you know, just a couple times a month that you're around and that it's safe to come in to see them and that sort of thing.
It's funny you say that because I always tell a story when I talk about social media. I had a patient that came in the office who had a cosmetic procedure done at another dentist that was really, really poorly done. And the guy, I said, "How did you hear about me?" And he said, "Well, I first heard about you on Instagram. And then all of a sudden you stopped posting on Instagram. And that's when he decided to go somewhere else because he thought I was not relevant anymore because I wasn't posting on Instagram." But we came in and he is a very influential person on Instagram, and he has, I don't know, 250,000 followers. He's a makeup artist, very popular in Philadelphia. But that really hit home because it shows that you can't turn something off because you don't know how you can affect the patient flow when something like that happens. Just like you can't shut off the reviews that are coming in, or you shouldn't shut off the reviews because Google doesn't find you as credible if that happens. So in the same note, you have to be consistent in the message that you're spreading. You have to be consistent in the sites that you're posting too. So I love that. I love how you just discussed how you have to be relevant. You have to make sure that you are visible on these sites in order to really focus or to get the benefit of social media.
Yeah, if you disappear or ghost on your patients, and like you said too, Len, if I look at a business and they don't have reviews for the past couple of months, even, I'm like, I wonder what's going on there. Like, what happened? It doesn't look good. We fill that void with, I'm sure it's not like, oh, they opened up a brand new practice somewhere, I'm just missing it or whatever. It's usually not good. So being anonymous is a dangerous place for a business to be today.
When it comes specifically, and you mentioned it, the staffing issues that offices are having, usually, and I would assume, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, that you're recommending that the office takes on the brunt of posting for the practices on social media. So the office has to take photos. They have to be conscientious of things that are going on and to be able to present it in a social form of way. With the staffing issues that people are having, how do you keep them focused on consistently posting if it's on them and you're not posting for them, or they're not using a service that is posting just generic stuff to their Facebook and other feeds?
Yeah, well, that's actually been a concern, a problem for many years because, 10 years ago when I first started helping practices with their social media, we would do training and I train their team and get them started and then send them on their way. And over time, we'd occasionally get a dentist that come back to us and said, well, we have a new team member. Could you do the same training again? Or, you can't necessarily record your programs for social media because they'll be different in 6 months, so you really need to have ongoing resources for them. But most recently, we had dentists coming to us saying, we want to do social media ourselves, but they have content fatigue. As you know, Len, you really have to be methodical about what you're posting. You want to know what's relevant, what's not. Some team members may know a lot about social media, but they may not have that business acumen to understand what's important to include from a practice building standpoint. So we've crafted this program, our Connect 90 program, around creating a framework. So it's not template content. It's a framework where we provide content suggestions for the practice, a couple of posts every week. And that's even Instagram's leadership recently said 2 posts to your profile and then add on your reels or stories if you wanted to was a great formula to follow. So we basically provide the ideas for the dentist and say, upload this photo or upload a carousel photo here or upload your short form video. And we help them out with the captions. They can change their voice and make it their own and really personalize it. And that way, if you did lose a team member or someone's out on maternity leave or whatever, somebody else can step in and see what's been posted in the past and just kind of have a good strategy for the future. So we include a mix of some of the most successful topics that we post about. Like July is National Ice Cream Month. It's a great time to give like a local ice cream card to a local coffee shop or things like National Dentist Day, relevant days. So we're not saying post about it's National Wear Your Flip Flops to Work Day, which has nothing to do with dentistry and it's not going to tie into anything beneficial. But we also remind them to post about those business topics too, like your insurance benefits are expiring or renewing, or relevant topics for today.
Do you recommend putting a content calendar together to help with that so they can plan out the month ahead of time, or that's not something you focus on?
Yeah, of course. And that's a part of our Connect 90 program. Is it's an online content calendar so they can visually see everything. And we encourage them to sit down like 15 or 20 minutes and look at the month ahead. And it shows them what pictures they need to take. We show them examples of what our other dentists are using for their photos too. So they don't have to sit there and if you're in a time crunch and you're stressed out at your practice, you don't have time to sit there and be creative about like, how do I want this pose to look or what am I going to do? But then they'll see other examples and go, oh, okay, I could do that. So every post from every one of our clients is always going to be different because they're in a different location, different pictures, different videos. They might tweak the captions. And that's what makes me feel good about this service is that it's saving them a lot of time. We feel proud about what we're putting out there because we know it's helping to position them in a good light and helping to grow their practice, but it's not that cheesy, like, cartoony, generic content that nobody wants to see, like how many teeth a giraffe has or how hard is your tooth enamel. Like, that's not helping the practice at all.
Nobody cares about that at all. That's not what you want to be posting. Boring contest is boring.
Right.
Remember that people aren't going to read boring. I can tell you that. So yes, you can't be like that. So I'm curious, Rita, you offer a service to dentists, and yeah, I know there's multiple services, but the one that we want to focus on here is your Connect 90 program. So can you talk a little bit about, before we switch to the pod decks part of it, where we're going to ask some lightning round trivia questions to you? Can you talk about what Connect 90 is and how does it benefit dentists to use a product like yours?
Yeah, for sure. And we do still offer our custom service too for some practices that are like, we really need someone to kind of do more for us, do everything, but we still need to get pictures from them, like you said, know what's going on in their office, that sort of thing. But the Connect 90 program, it's an online content calendar where we, have done all the groundwork and the research over the years to know which topics are going to be most interesting for and engaging for patients, and then including that business of dentistry content as well, whether it's talking about dental implants, clear aligners, just reminding patients that you're accepting patients and what sort of age groups of patients you see, all that sort of thing. And then we also have the scheduling tool. So once they create their post, they upload their photo and make it their own. Then they can schedule the post to automatically publish to Facebook, Instagram, and Google My Business and LinkedIn if they wanted to. We also have ways you can plan your reels and TikToks on the platform. And we have a knowledge center as well. As you know, Len, I've spoken a little bit over the years, right? You start to create all of these downloads and video tutorials, mini webinars, everything from like how to understand what hashtags are and how they can benefit your practice to understanding how to do a giveaway on social media without ending up in Facebook or Instagram jail, and what sort of incentives you could be giving away for your patients to tag you on Instagram and help you to grow your followings on the platform. So that knowledge center and having that support, so if a dentist has any trouble or their team, they're not spending an hour researching things. They can just contact us and we can support them within a few minutes. And most of all, it's really affordable. So there's no setup fees, no obligation. They can set up a trial for me if it seems interesting for them for 30 days to just try it out and see if it's going to be helpful for them. There's no long-term contracts. So I've been in this business a long time, like you, Len, obviously as a dentist, even more than me, but I'm not going anywhere. I love this industry and I want to make sure whatever we're doing is helpful. So.
Gotcha. Thank you for explaining about your product and what you do. We'll talk about special offers and stuff to get people to call and reach out in a couple seconds here. But I want to switch to what I think is a very different part of the podcast, and that's for those that haven't listened to one before. I use an app called Pod Decks to ask Rita some lightning round questions. I like this deck called The Hustle because it's all about business, entrepreneurship, growing a business that I want to ask Rita some questions on. So Rita, the first question is, do you make a to-do list every day, weekly, or when do you do it?
I think I would say weekly is my to-do list, and it's sort of my calendar where I create the framework for how I want my week to go. And I'm pretty much focused on my calendar. That helps to guide my most important tasks and personal things that I want to make sure I accomplish.
Okay. If you had to open up a lemonade stand tomorrow, what would you call your stand?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I'd probably have to tailor it around Rita's margarita lemonade or something like that.
Okay. Have you, and I hope this is, have you ever experienced in failures? And if so, what did you learn from them?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think just knowing that I always like to use the analogy, when one door closes, another one's going to open. So I like to think of it in terms of that maybe that wasn't the direction I should be going in, or maybe it is, but you need to try a different path.
Okay. All right. What is the one subscription you have that you can't live without?
Oh my gosh, my one subscription. That should be
Or
really easy,
what is
right?
one subscription? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, probably, I mean, I do enjoy my Netflix, but
That's what I
I
was going to say you
also,
were going to say. Netflix.
yeah, but supplements too. I have a couple of supplements that I take regularly, and those are pretty important. So,
What would you say are the top three skills needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
oh my gosh, I think vision for sure, and resourcefulness, and just, passion and energy.
Love that. Love that. What mindset has helped make you most successful?
I think just knowing that at the end of the day, we're helping other people. So, just feeling grateful for being able to work with the people that we work with, just like you, and inviting me to talk with you today.
Describe Mondays for you in one word.
I would say relaxing. I know that seems weird, but I always start off my Monday with like a good portion of the morning blocked to kind of ease into things and look ahead and kind of chill a little bit. So
Okay. I've got two questions left. Who has been your greatest inspiration?
I know it might sound kind of corny, but the doctor that I just mentioned to you that I started working with many moons ago was very inspiring to me in business. And I still think back a lot about what Dr. Mark Reisner taught us in working with him, because before I worked in that practice, I didn't have any business experience. He was just an inspiration to me on many levels. So,
That's great. That's great. And last question, what business related book has inspired you the most, or what is your favorite book?
did you say business book?
Yeah, what business book or what is your favorite book?
I just have to say, really, any book that involves nature is one of my favorite books. So I'm reading this book right now. No one would ever know what it's about, or probably ever heard of the title, but it's about a woman that's hiking around the Rocky Mountains in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I really find that type of book just inspiring, relaxing, and also teaches me a lot about how to overcome challenges, whether it's in business or personally. So that's really my favorite type of book, anything that involves nature and overcoming challenges.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you for participating in that little section of the podcast. So, Rita, how can people learn more about Connect 90? How can they get in touch with you? But how can they find out more? What's the best way to reach out to you?
If you're looking to save time on social media and want a strategy every month that's going to help you to get better results, you can visit connect90.com. You can book an online demo with me from there, and we can, just review what the program's all about. And you can find us all over social media at Connect90, social media for dentists, or at Rita Zamora.
Perfect. And did you want to make an offer to the listeners or viewers?
Yes, I would love to provide a demo for them. And we have a complimentary 30-day trial that I can offer to your viewers. And they'll be able to try out the program with no obligation, and see how it's going to fit for their practice.
Perfect. Rita, thank you so much. You are an amazing resource when it comes to social media. I always learn a lot from you. If you liked the episode, please share it. Please recommend it to your friends. Please download it. Please subscribe. Please review us. It's vital that we get your help from the listeners to promote it even more. If you liked what Rita had to say, please reach out to Rita and ask her for her assistance when it comes to social media. I think social media and reviews are some of the most important things that you can do. Just you need to get somebody to help really put the focus on what you need to do. So, Rita, thanks again for joining me today. And for those that are listening, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next episode, we'll see each other soon.